This is part 1 of my 3-part series on practicing drums with practice pads. Today, let's take a look at my all-time favorite practice pad for the hands and discuss why you should even consider using a practice pad in the first place. I guess this brand doesn't really need an introduction. FootBlaster is very well known amongst the metal drummer community for making exceptionally great kick triggers. I even made a video about them some time ago. But they also happen to make insanely good practice pads, like this 12-inch double surface pad. But before taking a closer look at this thing and why I think it's so great, let's talk about why you should or shouldn't use a practice pad in the first place. I mean, in the end, a drummer has a drum kit, and wouldn't that be absolutely sufficient to practice on and become a better drummer? Some very frequent reasons you might hear can be the drum kit that you own not being accessible at all times, whether because it's in a shared rehearsal room with other bands where you have to schedule your practicing times, or because of noise restrictions or many other reasons. All valid reasons why a practice pad should become your new best friend. But I'd say even if you're fortunate enough to have constant access to your drum kit 24/7, you should seriously consider practicing a lot, if not most of the time, on a practice pad in order to really push your limits. One reason for that, in my eyes, is simply focus. If we're honest, it's just too damn tempting to sit on our drums and instead of practicing 100% what we should, we drift off and play some stuff just for fun for a big portion of the time. I consider myself to be fairly disciplined, but I cannot do that, no matter how hard I try or how serious I am. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with having fun on your drum kit, just strictly talking about serious practicing, there's always a time and a place. And to be very clear, no practice pad can replace practicing coordination skills on your real drum kit. We're strictly talking about technique here. You can practice single strokes on a pad for years, but that won't make you necessarily better at playing crazy tom fills, for example. So to me, the benefit is clear. A dedicated pad lets me develop a routine that targets new skills and techniques right from the start by beginning with a practice-oriented warm-up routine, for example. So even though I do have round-the-clock access to my kit, around 60 to 70% of my practicing happens on the pad and not on my drums. So now that we've established that practice pads are very important, in my opinion, what makes this FootBlaster double surface pad my favorite and how's it different from other pads? Because of course, this is not the only pad on the market and also not the first one ever invented. This pad right here, for example, was the pad that I used for years daily at home or on tour, and there are dozens of similar pads out there. And they all work, or there's a way to make them work. For this one, for example, I always found the surface way too bouncy, so I only practiced with a double or triple folded towel on top. Because here's the thing, you definitely want the feel of the pad to be as close to your real drums or specifically your snare as possible, or even worse, never better. The reason is very simple. If you're practicing on something that has a lot more rebound than your snare, you'll get used to that feeling, your muscles need less force to hit the drum and you'll be faster and have more stamina. But as soon as you transfer from the pad to the real drums, you'll be slower, weaker and get tired a lot quicker. So practicing with the equal amount of rebound is key, or even less rebound, which will have the opposite effect on the real drums, because you're used to playing fast and hard with less rebound, and once you sit on the real drums, the extra rebound will blast you through the roof. And this is what FootBlaster got exactly right in this pad. On one side you have this real surface, and it feels exactly how I like my snare to feel like, with maybe a slight touch less rebound even, which is just perfect. This way I always know that whatever I can play here, I can play on my rear drums too. When you flip it over, you have the so-called hard surface, and it's as soft and as quiet as the other side, but with a lot less rebound. So I'd say this is the workout surface. I like using much thicker and heavier sticks, for example, on this side. So once I switch over to the real surface and use my regular sticks, it seriously feels like my hands are flying. Both surfaces surfaces are equally soft and quiet, so this is also great to not disturb others too much. Between these two surfaces there's this oversized plexi ring to mount it on any snare stand without damaging it. What I also really like about this pad is that every side serves as a non-slip dampening side, so for warm-up in the backstage or whatever, you don't even need a snare stand, just put it on the table or a chair and it won't slide away. But it also won't transfer the noise into the table and be too loud for, let's say, the guitarist who is also warming up or your neighbors at 3 in the morning. For me, this is by far the best practice pad I've ever used. I opted for the 12-inch one just because I like to have a bigger pad in front of me, and since I'm not touring as a drummer anymore, I don't really mind the size or weight. But there's also a 10-inch version with the exact same surfaces, just a bit smaller, lighter and a few bucks cheaper. I've put a link to the FootBlaster website in the description so you can check out the current pricing, because as far as I know, they are only sold on their own website in Italy, but of course they ship worldwide. I have no affiliation with FootBlaster, so I don't get paid or anything if you buy something from them. I just think they are a really great company making high quality products where you can absolutely tell and feel that everything is made by drummers for drummers, and I think that's worth to support. Since you're still watching, you can click over here and check out part 2 where I tell you more about the FootBlaster kick pad. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.